Okay, so now I'm going to show y'all a couple of different ways that we can finish the edge of our quilt. Okay, the first way I'm going to show you is called binding the edge. And I've done two sides here. We did this in class, but we're just going to review it so that if you can't remember the ones that weren't there, you have something to see. Okay, I suggest at this point now taking all of the pins that are out of your quilt if you're doing binding. Don't do it to your other quilt yet, but if you're going to do binding and you've got two sides done, then you can take all the pins out and just see if, it relaxes. You want to straighten it up or anything. And on this quilt, I top stitched like where my seams were and between my squares both ways. First, I started the one in the middle. And when you've got a throw like this, you can, it's a little bit aggravating fitting it through the machine, but it can be done. And I just top stitched beside my seam, and then I did the two other ones. And then I turned it around and top stitched this one, and then top stitched these two rows. And that gives this look. On the back, I don't know if you can see, but it's, sort of like a mini quilted look. That's top stitching. We're not going to do that. We're going to do tufting on ours, and we'll do that in class on the 17th. So what we're concerned with right now is putting the binding on, and leave your pins in until you get two sides of the binding on like I have here, and then take your pins out and just kind of shake it out, make sure everything flows together smoothly and everything, and then repin it. Now, I'm not going to have to repin this one because it's sewn in. But since we're not doing the top stitch quilted look, you will be repinning yours. Okay, so for how to do the binding, we need to get our edges right here nice and straight. So, I don't know if you can see right here, but the binding I put on this side, it's sort of, let me move this around here. And then see, I have a piece of my backing that ended up, an edge of it came way out and everything. We just got to trim all of that and get us a nice straight edge here to put our binding on. And even right here, I don't know if you can see, but like one of my squares, it came out about a ½ inch past my other one. So I've got to get everything trimmed back until I've got a pretty nice straight line there. So I'm going to cut this off, that piece of backing. Now remember, you do not do this on your quilt. I'm just showing you an optional way to finish the edge of a quilt. Do not trim your quilt like this. Just watch this and wait until we get to the part of how we're going to do it. I mean, you do have the option of doing it this way, but wait until you see both of the options before you decide, because once you cut that off straight, you have to do it this way. Alright, so there we've got us a nice straight edge. And then we have us a strip of fabric that we cut that is slightly longer than the length of our quilt. And we're going to fold this in half. And you can make this any size, just depending on how wide you want your binding to be. It can be thinner. I won't think you could really get it wider than this. It would probably look a little weird. And okay, so you take a strip of fabric and you fold it in half. Now, if we were doing it the correct way, the real way, I guess as you would say, you would pin it on top, sew along this edge, and then you would turn it over, and then on the back you would whip stitch or blind stitch it, sort of like an invisible stitch there. But y'all know me, I never do anything, or I don't do everything the right way, so I'm calling this, Alina's redneck way. So I'm actually going to sew mine to the back, because I'm going to machine stitch mine, so I want to be able to see it on the front. Alright, so we're just going to pin this on really good and just like leave a little bit overlapped there on the end so that we can finish our edge. Now remember, I cut it even on these ends because I have two opposite sides done. So this is how you'll be finishing the edges. So technically it would be your third and fourth edge opposite of each other is how we will finish this. We got to let it overlap a little bit. We're going to pin that in there really good because I'm going to sew through everything at once. Alright, so I'm going to pin this on here really good, and then I'm going to take it to my machine and sew it on. Now right here on the edges, we are going to, let's see this one, it's not sticking out as much, so let me show you how we're going to finish the edge here. Let me go ahead and finish pinning this on here. Okay, so here's our edge. Let's see if we can get a little closer. So if we sew that on and then we rotate it around, it's going to be sticking out like our other ones did, like that. And we want a finished look. So I'm going to open it up, and fold it in even with where it would be at the end of the piece of binding we've already got sewed on. Okay, so see I folded the end, and now it's even. It's about the same length. It's folded in even with the edge of the quilt. So when I sew that on here, and then I'm going to fold it back around that way. Now this is going to be thick, and I might even have to do that by hand. I'm not sure if my machine will sew through that without breaking the needle, because that is sort of a thick wad right there. But anyways, we've got a sealed edge there. And if you only can get your machine, to sew up to here, then you can just take a needle and thread and finish, sewing it, attaching it, securing it however you want at the corners. Okay, so I've got it pinned to the back all the way down the length of this. I got my edges folded in. So I'm going to go sew it, and then I'm going, after I sew it, see if I got it pinned on the back, after I put a seam in the edge, so with all this together, then I'm going to fold it around to the front, like that. So it'll be like that in the back, and this in the front, and then I'm going to top stitch, and that's gonna, and it will show another seam right here, but I'm gonna top stitch it with my sewing machine, and we'll have a finished edge. And I'm gonna go do that, and then I'll be back and show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so here I am. I've got the piece sewed on. See, I sewed it on like that. Stitched it on. So now I'm ready to fold it over and pin it in the front here. So you fold it over. Let me get on this side. So you fold it over like this. See, this part's kind of laying down the part of your seam. Just fold it over and pin it. Fold it over and pin it. So I'm going to go all the way down through here. See, I'm just folding it over and pinning it. And then I top stitch it. Okay, now I did like a 6-inch wide piece of fabric folded it in half, and done this. So this part right here is about 3 inches. You see it's folded, so it was 6 inches. I folded it in half, sewed it on. So now I'm folding it over. That's unusually wide. Most quilters I've seen do a much smaller edging. Really, like, they cut a piece of strip of fabric 3 inches wide, fold it in half, and then fold it over. So a really tiny binding. But I like fat, chunky binding. And I think it's a great way to add color to sort of spice up your throw. Now that's just a way that you can finish your throw. It's not the way I'm requiring y'all to do it. If you want to do yours this way, you can. It's going to take you longer to cut out all the strips and do it this way. So next I'm going to show you the way that we're going to do ours, unless you just want to do it this way. So here's the one, I done the other side, and so here's how the corner came out. So I was able to do it on my machine. See, I just folded it over and then top stitched it on the side and then down, and then, you know, continued on away this way. And it is really thick right here, and so I had my big needle in, and I had to go really slow and just sort of hand turn the knob to keep the needle from breaking and to make it sew through this. So it's entirely possible you might have to do this part by hand unless you just want to go really slow in your machine. Okay, so that's how I'm going to finish pinning the edge that I showed you, and that's my last one. And I've got this throw completely done. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do the way we're going to do it in class. Okay, so here's the one that's like the one we did in class, the one I gave you instructions for. And it's going to require ironing because the other throw I showed you, it was made out of scraps of upholstery fabric and corduroy. So it was kind of thick and heavy. But most everything we did in class was cut out of cotton or some other thin kind of material. So we're going to need to iron the edges for this project. So you're going to need to heat your iron up. So I've got mine heating. And while mine's heating, I'm going to do what I had mentioned before. I'm going to take all the pins out. I've went ahead and done 2 sides. You know, we did one in class and I showed you, and then the other side I did while I was on my break. So I've got 2 sides done. Once you get 2 sides done, then, and I did my 2 long sides first, then take out all of your pins, and we're going to give it a chance to re-straighten it. Because with this thin material, and I did one of the ones I used, it was kind of a slinky material, and it has moved around on me a lot. Some of you may do neater work than me, and you may not be having this problem at all, but I can tell mine's a little bit crooked. So I'm taking all my pins out now that I've got 2 sides done. Don't take your pins out until you get 2 sides done. So you're actually going to have to keep watching and see how I do this, because I've not even told you how to finish an edge yet. And I'm already taking out pins. Okay, so now I've got all my pins out. I'm going to just kind of give it a chance to straighten out there, holding my 2 finished sides, and just kind of let it straighten out this way. Oh, there's a pin I missed. It's still holding it. Okay, let's give it another shake. Just give it a chance. Anything that was, yeah, see my rows, I can tell they were kind of wanting to swerve a little bit one way or the other. Okay, so there we go. So how we do this type of finishing the edge is your fabric should be, your backing should be extending at least 2 inches out from the edge of the top piece of your quilt. So now, don't cut your backing, leave your backing the way it is, but now is how we're going to trim the batting and our top piece. If we've got any crooked squares on the edge, if we've got batting sticking out, here's our time to be straightening up the edge of our quilt. See, I've got 2 squares there that didn't meet exactly, so here's my time to just kind of straighten that up. Okay, so I straighten that edge up. Okay, so I need to go back and secure at least this row with pins. See, I've got this Okay. Make sure that doesn't move on me while we're doing our edge, and then we end up. So I'm putting 4 pins in, one in the middle of each square, and we're going to do this edge here. Alright. So here's what we need the iron for. So we should have about 2 inches of fabric sticking out from the back. It's our backing. And I'm just going to fold it over, just do a small, like a 1/4 inch fold over and iron it. Now you could actually fold that over and sew it down. But I'm just ironing mine. It's very easy to just quickly iron. Just doing it, folding it over about 1/4 inch just to get me a nice, crisp, ironed edge there. And that's ironing in really easy. You might have to do the steam option on your iron to get it to iron down. Alright. So now right here in the corner where, see, I had already finished 2 of my edges because we did one in class. So right here was what my corner looked like. I don't know, my fabric is floral and it's hard to see. But it's folded over and extending 2 inches out. So now I'm just folding the end and ironing it, you know, just like I did everything else. So I've got that folded over and ironed. So see, I've got like a nice square finished edge. Now we take it and fold it over exactly the way we did that other binding and pin it in place. And then we're going to top stitch it just like we did the other one. So see, this is a quicker, easier way to do it. To finish the edge, you just have to pre-plan and leave your backing sticking out 2 inches on each side of the top piece to do it this way. And it's sort of like you have built-in binding. And you don't got to cut any strips. There's only 1 seam to do rather than 2. So it's just now you don't get that extra punch of color like you do adding your own binding, because it's just whatever the back was. So see, it's just, I'm just bringing the back over onto the front. So that's the way that we do. Finish pinning this here. That's the quick and easy way that y'all can do your edging. Like I said, if you want to do the first technique I showed you about cutting strips and sewing it on, you're welcome to do it that way. Gotta iron that corner there. So there we go. I'm going to top stitch that, and that corner, that edge is going to be done. I'm going to do the other side. And so this is what it looks like when it's done. This is one I've already done. Just bringing the back, folding it over, and top stitching it. See, here's the one I've got pinned that I'm fixing to sew on. I just folded it over onto the front. And we're going to top stitch it. Okay, and like I said, at least put 4 pins on the side, on each side you do it, but I really recommend having the whole 1 pin in each square, because when we tuft it in class on the 17th, everything needs to be held in place how you want it, because when we tuft it, we're going to be sewing through these corners right here and attaching it so it will be permanently secured, and then we'll take our pins out.